from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. It's great to be with all of y'all this morning, Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. We've got a good show for all of y'all today. A lot happening for practitioners, so we're going to get right into it because there were a lot of stories to cover, and we only got 15 minutes. So before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to support our show. The best way for you to support us is to subscribe. Follow us in either LinkedIn, follow the podcast on your podcast listening platform, share it, comment, and like. Thank you to everyone doing so right now on YouTube, X, and LinkedIn. Really do appreciate it, as well as our fans on Facebook, Rumble, Twitch, and everywhere else that are tuning in. Additionally, go check out our Substack. My exclusive writing goes only on Substack, nowhere else. jamesazar.substack.com, or you can look up CISO Talk by James Azar on Substack, or look up the CyberHub Podcast. You can get it all right there. Our content is centralized on the amazing Substack platform. Now, without further ado, we have a lot to talk about today, so let's go ahead and get going. But before we do that, one must get energy before going through so many priorities for practitioners. And in so, join me for my double espresso, whatever you're drinking this morning. Coffee cup cheers. Okay, let's go ahead and get the ball rolling. CISA adding a significant flaw affecting the NextGen Healthcare's Mirth Connect product to the KEV catalog. Mirth Connect is a widely used cross-platform interface engine that healthcare organizations use for information management. The CVE tracking this vulnerability is 2023-43208. It's a data deserialization issue that could allow an unauthenticated remote code execution. A patch was rolled out with the release of version 4.4.1. The flaw came to light in October of last year when Horizon 3 warned of its potential impact on healthcare companies. Developers had previously patched it. However, the patch wasn't sufficient. They needed to get to a later patch. The patch still had some exploits. The security firm also noted seeing more than 1,200 internet-exposed instances of it still unpatched and exploited. And now here's the deal. Once the patch is out there, once it's out, and there's an exploit, that's when it moves to the KEV catalog. So it's really important to note the way CISA's KEV catalog works, because there's a lot of kind of misconceptions around it. You can have a vulnerability and it never hit the KEV catalog. The time it hits the KEV catalog is when there's active exploits and there's enough unpatched endpoints to justify adding it there because of complacency. And again, complacency is the reason here, right? So something to be mindful of this morning there. In unsettling news, the EPA on Monday issued an enforcement alert to outline the measures needed to protect the U.S. drinking water systems against cyber threats. Inspection conducted by the EPA since September of last year found that more than 70% of the water systems they inspected did not fully comply with the Safe Drinking Water Act. The inspections found some systems had critical cyber vulnerabilities, including ones introduced by the use of simple default passwords or authentication systems that could be easily compromised. The agency also outlines the steps drinking water system operators need to take to secure their assets. The top recommendation include reducing the internet exposure of systems, conducting regular assessments, changing default passwords, making inventories of IT and OT assets, developing and exercising incident response and recovery plans, backing up systems, addressing vulnerabilities, and conducting awareness training. The agency will increase the number of planned inspections and, where appropriate, will take civil and criminal enforcement actions, including a response to a situation that may present an imminent or substantial endangerment. Inspections will ensure the water systems are meeting their requirements according to the EPA to regularly assess resilience, vulnerabilities, including cybersecurity, to develop emergency response plans. Obviously, Iran's been at the forefront of attacking water systems. Russia's been linked to causing a water overflow in a small Texas town. So there's a whole lot that's going on here with a whole lot of people talking about it. Here's the bottom line. Utilities that operate in water systems are typically county operated. Counties have to prioritize where they're spending money. And a lot of times the money gets cut in the water systems because counties, like many organizations, will go, who would want to target the water system? And what we've learned is our adversaries will target anything to disrupt our way of life. So we ought to be mindful of that. Now, as cybersecurity practitioners, two key things we can take from this story. One, have a filter on your home, right? Like if you don't have a generator and a water filter, you're kind of leaving yourself unprepared. In your personal life, kind of incident response, kind of resiliency 101. The second piece, let's reach out to our counties and look at those water systems and offer some sort of help, because I guarantee you one thing, they're looking for help. They just can't get it. Promise you that. So there's that news on the water systems. Omnivision is finally disclosing that the ransomware attack it suffered in September of last year actually included some data and PII leakage. The notification letter that was sent, a copy of which was submitted to the California Attorney General's office, the company revealed that the incident was discovered on September 30th of last year after certain systems were encrypted by malware. In response, they did the whole, all right, I'm going to skip always the whole line because there's one organized line in every single one of these. When we discovered it, we engaged the best people on the planet. They were great. They're the best people. And those best people came in and they did a whole lot of investigating. And now, 8 months later, we're ready to tell you we know what happened. Cactus, which was the ransomware group behind the attack, claimed to have stolen around 3.5 terabytes worth of data from the semiconductor manufacturer, and it made the data available for download in December, likely when the extortion attempt failed. The notification does not detail the type of personal information that was compromised in the attack either, but the data leaked by Cactus included confidential documents, non-disclosure agreements, other business documents, and passport scans. Omnivision providing the impacted individuals with free credit monitoring and identity restoration services for 24 months. So there's that. A new version of the Bibi wiper is out there. Bibi wiper first spotted shortly after October 7th last year by a friend of the show, Omer, and his team over at Security Joe's, has now launched a new different type of attack where they're really trying to extend the downtime for targeted victims by making data restoration harder. Bibi wiper has been predominantly used against targets in Israel and Albania. It's been suspected to be attributed to the Iran's Ministry of Intelligence and Security. Bibi wiper was first spotted by Security Joe's. A new report by Checkpoint uncovers newer variants of Bibi wiper and two other custom wipers used by the same threat group, namely C1 wiper and partition wiper. The report also highlights operational overlaps between Void Manticore and Sacred Manticore, another Iranian threat group, suggesting the two are cooperating, which wouldn't be far-fetched. Checkpoint suspects that Void moniker hides behind the Karma Hacktivism group on Telegram, which appeared following the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th. That attack claimed the lives of nearly 1,200 Israeli civilians, including women, children, men, and elderly, and 128 Israelis are still held hostage by Hamas following that attack. Karmas claimed attacks against over 40 Israeli organizations, publishing some stolen data or evidence of wiped drive on Telegram to amplify the damage of their operations. A persona used for Albanian attacks named Homeland Justice leaked some of the stolen files on Telegram, which is primarily what they've been using. Telegram has become the kind of arena for sharing this kind of stuff for all the Hamas sympathizers out there. Compared to past malware versions, this newer version are reconfigured only to target Israeli systems and do not delete shadow copies or disable system error recovery screen. However, they now remove partition information from the disk, making it more difficult to recover the data. So there's that there as well. Researchers have discovered a severe memory corruption vulnerability inside a cloud logging utility used across many of the major cloud platforms. These are organizations like VMware, Cisco, Adobe, Walmart, LinkedIn, and nearly every major cloud provider like AWS, Microsoft, and Google Cloud. The service is called FluentBit. It's an open source tool for collecting, processing, and forwarding logs and other type of application data. It's extremely popular, has over 3 billion downloads as of 2022. The issue with FluentBit has been dubbed linguistic lumberjack in a new report from Tenable. It lies in how the service's embedded HTTP server parses trace requests, manipulated in one way or another, it can cause denial of service, data leakage, or remote code execution in a cloud environment. So there's some stuff to this, according to Tenable. You need to be looking for application security bombs, like components of service and not just the services themselves. And then there's something to be said about that. There are now services out there. If you're on the application side and you're blind, you know, you can reach out to me. I know of several security partners that are really doing some groundbreaking work on that part of the world, and in that part of the application world, to really help. The cross-tenant data leakage from endpoints and fluent bits monitoring, essentially API, is designed to allow users to query and monitor its internal data. After some testing, though, the API is a bit leaky and there are some deeper problems there. There are some solutions to this. The bug does exist, but it's been remediated with a new CV. It's been remediated with a new version. There are also mitigation controls you can put there. That's all in our show notes. The Open Source Security Foundation has launched a threat sharing platform on Monday designed to provide an early warning system against actively exploited vulnerabilities, TTPs, or IOCs like XZ-Util. This is essentially after the fact. This will help people share that kind of information and let them get some ways in order to help protect and share the information within the open source community. This should be extremely helpful for them as well. The alleged owner and operator of the Incognito Market, a dark web marketplace for selling narcotics online, was arrested at JFK Airport in New York on May 18th. The illegal dark marketplace was used to sell more than $100 million worth of narcotics, including over 1,000 kilograms of illicit drugs, including meth, cocaine, amphetamines, and ecstasy, MDMA. First serviced in October of 2020 before the marketplace was shut down by law enforcement. Rui Siang Lin, also known as Rusiang Lin Faro, allegedly oversaw its operation, including its employees, 2 other admins, vendors, and customers. The Justice Department said apparently he was flying either through New York or into New York and was apprehended in JFK, and he will appear in front of a federal magistrate in order to seal his fate, whether or not he'll have any sort of bail, and so forth. Google taking a swipe at Microsoft's dominant Microsoft 365 suite by invoking the monoculture word in response to the scathing report by the government. The tech giant published a statement Monday warning of longstanding risks to public sector organizations using the same vendors for OS, email, office software, and security tooling. Google is hoping to be able to take a bite out of the Microsoft 365, which has been dominant for many, many years and continues to remain dominant, even though the CSRB report was scathing. It doesn't appear that Microsoft's lost any business because of it. Google, on their end, are trying to push the Google G Suite enterprise service as a potential alternative. Cyberforce measure is expected to resurface in the House Defense Bill debate. The idea here and the proposition coming from Morgan Luttrell of Texas and Chrissy Holohan of Pennsylvania is a bipartisan attempt to create a cyber service before DoD brass. Last year, Kristen Gillibrand successfully added a similar provision to the Senate version of the legislation, but it was ultimately cut from the compromise bill. It's no secret cyberspace, cyber war, cyber threats, cyber risk is growing exponentially, not just nationally, but globally. And Luttrell, a former Navy SEAL, said that the military should have its own cyber force. So we've got Space Force, which was created in 2019. That was the first new branch of the U.S. military in 72 years. There's now a push 5 or 6 years later, if this gets through, to create the cyber force. It would be interesting to see what the balance here is. So we'll see how lawmakers pull this together, and if anything comes out of it. Finally, in acquisition news in the cybersecurity world, CyberArk spent $1.5 billion acquiring Venafi in a huge merger and acquisition deal from private equity firm Thoma Bravo. The deal, $1 billion in cash and $540 million in CyberArk shares, focuses on intelligence privilege controls. A Boston-based CyberArk provides human and machine identity security solutions across hybrid SaaS and multi-cloud environment. Venafi delivers machine-to-machine connection and communication security and provides organizations with visibility into machine identities across on-prem, cloud, virtual, mobile, and IoT environment. So all in all, more consolidation happening in the marketplace. That's it for our show this morning. Thank you all for tuning in. Please make sure to subscribe, follow us, share, like. If you've got any stories, you can always go to our website, cyberhubpodcast.com, submit them there, or reach out to us through any one of our social media channels. We'll gladly help you, and you can always stay anonymous. That's it for the show. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day, and most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.